welcome back to the For the Badge podcast. Manchester City have defeated Newcastle 2-0. It was the early game on Saturday. What you telling me, Lewis? What you think? I thought City were dominant, really.
Well, I think Patrick said something in the chat about did Grealish cross? Because he didn't.
No,
He didn't cross the ball at all. What?
Right.
Did he try?
No,
he didn't try. Come on now, man. But I will say this: Foden was back looking like Foden. The guy is good. He's legit good. And this is where it's so confusing to me, right? Because I give Grealish credit because De Bruyne was looking rough. I don't know what's wrong with him. Even commentators are starting to comment now, like, what's the deal with him? So clearly something else is going on with him than just football. And what my credit to Grealish is he was playing like the Villa Grealish, where he was coming inside, and he's dangerous central. Like, if you stick him in the middle of the field, he's dangerous. If I'm Pep Guardiola, I'm sticking Mahrez on the wing, and I'm pulling De Bruyne off. And then I'm going to let them work from there. And Grealish was going to do the same thing, except he'd get fouled in the middle of the field. And so since he likes that, even though he complains all the time, he loves getting fouled. I don't know why. But he gets a rise out of it. And, but Foden was fantastic. I did expect Newcastle to be a little more hungry than what they were.
Yeah.
And they were not. And I think is the hangover of, and even though it's the Manchester City Invitational, I refuse to call it the No One Cares Cup. It's the Manchester City Invitational. And so because Manchester City wasn't there, they just wanted Newcastle to understand what it was like to lose to Manchester City and the potential of that. But I think there was a hangover because I think Newcastle was looking at that. That's their only chance to win the trophy this year. And they very likely, because Chelsea will return to form and Liverpool will return to form, that winning a trophy in the next couple of years is probably unlikely. Not because they're not good. It's just other teams are seeing the investments that Newcastle are doing, and they're not at the level reputation-wise for the players to come there yet. So Arsenal is going to get players. Chelsea is going to get players. United will get players. And Liverpool will get players. And so that leaves Newcastle's with either having the greatest scouting department in the world like Dortmund to pull some guys out, or they have to be contented with sixth, because Spurs, even though they are confusingly erratic, they stay in the top six as well. So I think Newcastle was really disappointed because they're like, that was our chance, and we didn't beat a United team that was quite beatable based on the result that United had, and I'll leave it at that.
Yep.
I did think, though, that Newcastle had a couple of opportunities. When it was 1-0, there was a spell there, maybe 10 minutes or so, where I was like, surely not. Surely City aren't going to do the same Forest BS at home. Surely. And then when Joel Linton puts it wide in the 6-yard box, I was like, nope.
Nope.
And then what was it? 3 minutes later, it's 2-0, and I'm like, there it is.
Another thing is, like, Ederson didn't look great. He's been looking rough the last couple of weeks. He doesn't look confident back there. A lot of guys just was looking rough, man. De Bruyne and what your mainstays were looking suspect. I think
KDB get hooked? He got hooked at halftime, didn't he?
Who's that?
KDB.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. Deservedly so, he did. Silva came in and he did exactly what Silva does.
Scored.
He scored.
Yep.
Yeah, how about the assist by Haaland?
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing is I think he gets off on that now because I think there's a criticism of him that he doesn't fit in the system, so he doesn't have touch, and he doesn't sort of have that vision outside of putting it in the net. And so you've seen that when he gets assists, he gets super excited for those, because I think he feels like he fits in the system, because he's not really a system player. And so he's normally the system. And so for him to make those adjustments, I just think it makes him not only humble but dangerous, because you can see, even though he has this like just driven hunger, you see he wants to be good. Like, and he doesn't. He's not beyond the humility of I can get better by being around these guys. And I think he's starting to get it where to go.
Yeah.
As long as the net bulges, he's happy.
Yeah.
And I bet that makes you really happy to see your talisman, at least for this season. You know, and he's so young too. Really wanting to work. You know, because when you look at the Messis and the Ronaldos, Ronaldo never stopped working. Never. He was first to training, last to leave. You know, and that's why he's arguably one of the, you know, greatest ever. You know, people still arguing that, even though, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, when you see Haaland wanting to fight for the badge so hard, he's standing tall to Dan Burn, the only guy in the league that's taller than he is. Like, and oh my God. If you go back and freeze frame the look he's given Dan Burn, like and then right after it, he gives that evil grin, like, all right, okay, all right, man, I see you. I was like, Dan Burn better get out that ground quick.
Well, you know, another thing I think is important is that City is not seen as like one of those teams that are chippy. And they did a bunch of chippy stuff in that game. Like, and it was funny because
game, man.
Yeah, I was about to say that's Newcastle's game.
It was funny, like at the end, like you know, just the him and Grealish in the corner being who they are. It was hilarious because that's not really the characteristics of a Guardiola team, and they were like all about it. Yeah. And I love it because they have to be more than what they are or were to get what they've never had. Because again, the league, very cool, very important. Keep working on that, but you know the focus.
Yep.
You were gonna say something a second ago, X?
Well, I was gonna say it's just you knew once City scored the first goal, the game really kind of turned because Newcastle started throwing everything. You saw Trippier getting caught further and further up, and you just knew the second goal was going to come from City once they started throwing, you know, people like Trippier, and then Jolteon was just getting further and further caught up inside of that six, trying to push for that equalizer. Because it's really, you know, to Newcastle's credit, it is still hard to score on Newcastle. Like statistically, the math's still there. Like, they're a very difficult team to score on. City should have had a lot more goals than what they had. But I think that it goes to show, again, like Newcastle is a very difficult team to score on. And once they started throwing kind of the Hail Marys up at City, you just can't do that to that team. You have to grind. If you're down 1-0, you have to grind out a chink in the armor and capitalize on that one opportunity to make it 1-1. You can't just start throwing Hail Marys at it because that's exactly what Pep wants you to do. And that's how he's designed that team, because then you're going to end up with Haaland by himself, one-on-one with the defender in the box. Like, it's just, we've seen it time and time and time again, because you have flyers, you have people who can get down the field. And, you know, or people like Kevin De Bruyne who can hit dimes, you know, across, you know, those monstrous cross balls. You know, it was just bound to happen after that first goal. And that was what was really sad to me, to see Newcastle trying to shift from this grind of a game. It was, you know, it was touch and go. You know, City had their chances. They weren't putting it in the net. Kind of was like, all right, is City going to not show up or capitalize today like they did a few times here recently? You know, was it going to be one of those games where they had a million chances, just couldn't capitalize? Once the first one went in, you've seen it kind of deflate Newcastle again this game, and they started, like I said, you really saw a shift in their defense and how far they were willing to give some of that ground up, which was untypical from Newcastle, because we've seen a lot of 1-0s get grinded out, or, you know, it's just they've been not scoring lately, and I think that's really getting to them.
I wonder if Newcastle's starting to experience some issues with depth. You know, they've been grinding hard this year, and you're getting to the back end of that schedule where some of those legs get a little bit heavier. You know, you're not hitting at you know, the highest level when you're putting your foot through the ball. But I do have a question for Lewis. You said that Ederson hasn't been playing well. Do you think that this clean sheet will give him some confidence You don't think so?
It's mental. You can see because I think I mentioned it was in the chat or maybe in one of the podcasts where I said his wife criticized him when he plays poorly, and
Yeah.
he still played poorly. Like, man, it's all season. He's been letting in goofy goals, and
Newcastle should have scored off of his mistake. He gave
Yeah.
him the ball
Yep.
on that one, and they should have scored.
in addition to that, the calling card of Ederson is his distribution, and his distribution is down. Like,
Yeah,
he's
I will
hitting the
agree with
ball
that.
into the stands. He's like something is wrong. And so I really have to beg the question, and I don't think it's fatigue from winning. There's something wrong because like the Cancelo thing, you know, the Bayern news is he can't get in the team. So clearly there was something going on with him. Personally, De Bruyne has been hit and miss all season. You got Ederson who's been like all over the place. It's a lot of Foden had an up and down spell. This is really rare where the five names I called are stalwarts and mainstays where you expect 7 out of 10 every week, if not more.
Yeah.
And they've been super inconsistent. I would say if Haaland wasn't in the team, and I mean it's a little bit of a reach, but City's not in second place. I think City is around fourth or fifth. And I'm being honest because there's been such an inconsistency because the Bernardo thing every year has been something. The Akanji working in there, the Stones getting hurt, no left back. It's just it's been Kyle Walker hasn't been in form. Like, just name a guy who's been in form for City because you can say Haaland, but he's super inconsistent. Who's that?
Nathan Ake.
Yeah, outside. But think about it.
Ricardo Lewis.
You're welcome, by the way.
Ake's been your best player of
Yeah,
late.
yeah.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
season.
you're welcome.
The funny thing is, you mentioned Rico Lewis. The only reason he even got a chance is because of other people being out of form. And then when he got a chance, he disappeared. Like, something is super inconsistent with the team right now. And I mean, I feel fortunate, and that's just sheer will of the team that they are where they are. And you know, again, because again, I think if you have those four guys on target, that I would dare say we are level with Arsenal on points if that was the case. Because I mean, think about how many games we've dropped points that don't make sense on draws. We would be level with Arsenal for sure. It would still be a race because Arsenal's been fantastic this season.
You would have beat like the Forests. The Forest result would have been
We
different.
don't lose those games. I mean,
Right.
it's something is wrong.
Do you think it's the same issue that we're dealing with a little bit? Like, Potter has 30 different guys to choose from any given Saturday or Sunday.
City doesn't have depth though.
They're not that big.
They're
but
not
City, I'm saying what you have in substitutions are starting players in those roles. I'm saying Juan Alvarez, or Alvarez is a starter, Mahrez is a starter, Silva is a starter. At any other given squad, Laporte starter, Stones. I know he's Rico Lewis even. Like, you have guys here chomping at the bit week in and week out, and I get it. You're not going to sit Phil Foden. You can't sit Kevin De Bruyne because then mainstays at the club. Like, you hit the nail on that. Like, do you think that those? I'm not saying it's Pep, because I think Pep's doing a better job, because if this is the case, it's a direct correlation to what a good manager does during this and how to handle players versus what I believe what we have as an amateur would do and how to handle this situation and the players. But you have talent on the bench. You might not have the depth. I'm saying 30 guys. I'm saying, but when it comes to fielding who's playing center back or who's playing mid, you have 5 guys chomping at the bit who all could play that position at any other given club and start this week. And that has, like, do you think that that's an issue? Because with Haaland stepping into the club, like, we're talking about the ego, right? We're talking about the club not being theirs, having a guy, the go-to guy, having somebody you have to feed. He's scoring all of our goals. Do you think that's a problem for Pep?
I mean, I agree with what you said. A lesser manager, like not in quality, but I mean like level. Like, not to disrespect the person would have an issue with City. I think I'm gonna push back a little bit on Pep handling it well. I think his man management during the game has been mediocre at best this year. His substitution patterns are really weird. He doesn't make subs when he should make subs. There's several times where if he had made subs in games, it could have changed games, and he hasn't. I think his sort of affinity for Ederson, if he challenged him the way he did Joe Hart when he first came in the club, and he threw Joe Hart out, if he did that to Ederson where he challenged him when his form dipped and put in Ortega, I think Ederson wakes up. But
Can't
Ederson,
play taco sauce over Ederson.
Maybe that's what he means, though. That's what he's saying.
But you can't, and that's the reason you can't play Rico Lewis over Kyle Walker. Yet he did it, and you can't play Jack Grealish, who, and I'm saying this, he's having a good season, but he's not better than Phil Foden, and he was playing him over Foden every week, because the wings were Foden on one side and Mahrez on the other, so and he was playing Grealish over him, and Grealish produced nothing. And he was getting fouled, and he wouldn't cross, and he played him over him. And he stuck Bernardo Silva in at left back while Cancelo was in the team. So to say Ortega could play over Ederson, absolutely is what Pep would do. If we go back to his Barcelona days, he threw Zlatan Ibrahimovic in his prime. It was like, hey man, you got to go. and so it's not beyond him to do that. So I think like challenging Ederson and challenging some other guys was important. He didn't start Diaz several weeks while he was healthy, and Diaz is probably the best defender on the team outside of Stones, and he didn't play him. So I think
Diaz is your one natural leader.
He is. And the thing about it is, so I think you are correct, X, in the idea that there is something, where I don't know what it is. I think if it was anybody else but Pep, the team would be in shambles. They would be in shambles. But I think that's an issue because it's similar to what we talked about in the other podcast about United and the guys not leading. At some point, the players on the field got to play. It don't matter what the manager tell you to do tactically. So, for example, when he stuck Bruno out on the left, and I'm on the field and we getting shellacked 3-0. I'm like, hey, man, Rashford, go over there on the wing. Weghorst, get in front of me. Let's go. And the hell with whatever the manager said. We're going to play our style. And if you bench me or whatever, at least we don't get 7 put on us. Players do that. I mean, you guys play sports. If your coach is giving you some stupid tactic and you're getting smashed, you're like, you know what? We just gonna have to deal with this and run a lot in practice, but we're not doing this anymore because this is not working.
My coach called Cookie one time on a team that we had scored like 6 in the first half, and he was like, "All right, guys, like no more, nah, like yeah, no, we're just not. We'll run the laps. It's just not worth it."
I live in the world, and you all have probably heard this before. It is when people complain about people running up the score, it's very simple. If I'm on the field and my goal is to score and attack, I don't know how to turn that off.
No, sorry.
Your job is to stop me.
I don't care if your players are crying on the sidelines. I don't care. I don't care.
United about that.
I played when I was in high school, I played for a high school that was very small, and our division therefore had a lot of very, very small schools. And when we played places like Military Magnet, we were putting up double digits every season, every time.
That creates such a hatred too.
There was no
chance to, right.
I mean, granted, the coach was wise enough. My coach was wise enough to bring the entire program, so the JV team came as well. And so the start varsity was done at 7-0, but still, and then the subs come on and put another 13.
Yeah, because the JV team's better than their varsity team, right? No, yeah, I've been there.
But think about it; it's even more insulting if I just hold the ball all game.
Well,
that's
right.
even more insulting.
No, right.
Stop me.
Call this what it is. Yeah, you're about to look at a masterclass on how to stop. Yeah.
But it must be said that how many games is that without a loss for City? It's like 6 or 7. Plus it was 6 straight away games that y'all came out of with 5 wins and 1 draw.
Well, we got one more. We got Palace next week.
Yeah. And we'll get to them. They were terrible.
7 games, 7 consecutive.
So
Nice.
I'll say one more thing. As an Arsenal fan and being in this title race against City this year, I think that there's one key component to beating City, and that's when you play them, and that's also a more of a macro statement as well. When you play City, this season at least, they're going to give you a spell of where you're going to be on top. I think we've seen that in almost every game recently. Newcastle had a spell, didn't score. Forest had a spell, scored. Leipzig had a spell, scored. And that, that means that if City are going to give you that, you absolutely, the only way to beat them is to take advantage. If you don't, they score a second goal in the 67th minute and then pass the ball around you for 25 minutes and it's over.
And it's over. Yep.
And so this season,
I hate them so much.
This season, everyone is giving us that spell.
Yeah.
Chelsea are bad this season. Liverpool are having to play catch up this season.
Well, it's your
Tottenham have been
season.
languishing in fourth place, and they're awful. For Christ's sakes,
it's your season without the Cinderella story for Leicester all over again. Because you should have won. You should have won that season as well. We were all bad. City was down. Chelsea was down. United been down. And here comes Arsenal. Okay, we're a little bit on the
Tottenham was going to
resurgent.
do it, and then they lost it.
And
Very last
Leicester just
game,
comes out of Leicester comes out of nowhere and just wins the league and steals it from you guys. So yeah, it's the same scenario without some Cinderella story coming out of the back. You have a commanding.
I've been thinking about it. This is Arsenal's. I'm not saying that Arsenal won't win the league next year or can't win the league the year after that, but this is the best opportunity. Chelsea will be back. Liverpool are already on their way back. United aren't going to hold 7 every single.
As we get rid of that clown, we'll be all right.
This right here is the best chance because City, like I say, in every game they'll give you 10 minutes. This season,
can you score in 10 minutes? Yeah,
they're giving us an opportunity. Look, when we were on top against City at 1-1 in the beginning of the second half, we could have put them away. We could have won that game. We didn't finish. Eddie has an absolute sitter that he puts wide. And what happens at 2-1? Ball back. We didn't get the ball back. That's what I'm saying. When City get a lead, they don't give it back.
No, you're not getting the ball.
So this right here, right now, we must. Because it's Arsenal's best opportunity. Because next season, I don't see City being this inconsistent next season. They'll get it together as well. And it's crazy to say that about a team that's in second place. But, I mean,
they'll take Arsenal more seriously, too, next season. Not to say that he didn't, but because they've shown the pedigree of a champion or potential champion, you're getting everybody's best shot next year.
Yep.
Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely am. For sure. But, yeah, City roll on. They're getting into that. They're kind of getting into that undefeated streak that we've all been talking
waiting
about.
for.
And, shout out to
this time of year.
Huh?
That's what they do at this time of year.
I was about to say the very same thing. Hugh is a big City fan on the Big Six. His channel is the 1894. Go check him out. He is talking about how City know when to click. They know when to turn it on. And it's this part of the season, the business end of the season. And yes, even if City win every game for the rest of the year, we can still win the league. But if City win every game for the rest of the year, will we?
You got to
Gotta go to Anfield.
running.
I just want to put. I mean, I don't think we're gonna segue into your game here so soon, but champions find a way, and that's what you did this week. And I said that, and I've said that twice now this season. You found a way in the Manchester United game. Huge game for you guys. You came away and you found a way in your most recent game against Bournemouth, which was a huge, like, not in just the fashion of how you did it, what those points mean.
Yep.
Now moving forward with City winning their game, with being in front of them still, it's these little momentum steps that champions take throughout those seasons, and you've done it twice now. You've stolen the points back to stay on top, and that's what it takes.
And it's interesting because just looking at the run-in, Arsenal have like a clump where they have to get up every week.
All three of them are back to back to back.
If you look at City has it every other week. So it means they get a chance to, not to say any team, okay, I was going to lie and say not to say bad, but they're bad teams. But,
there's some bad teams
you're going to get.
Speaking of bad teams,
these guys know that every other week is the only time they really have to turn it all the way up. They can do that. They can 1-0 the garbage teams, or they can 3-0 the garbage teams and win 1-0 the big ones. So I think Arsenal, if Arsenal win this title, and I shy away from ever saying the word deserve, but they will have earned their trophy. And I would say they would be on par with some of the best seasons that you've seen in the Prem if they win this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely loving it. I'm definitely absolutely loving it. But hey, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get that notification bell on. We got plenty more coming at you. And have a good night.